Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to one of the INE's online sessions. Today's week we're going to have the CCNA security, also called IINS, which stands for Implementing CISCO Network Security class, which is going to be the technology class aimed to prepare you for the certification, but also as to prepare you with a lot of knowledge to not only get a certification, but also be a let's say an engineer who can actually implement and knows what is in the current CCNA security blueprint. Okay, so a bit about myself. For those of you who have never met me in any of my online classes or on-site classes, my name is Christian Matei. I am a double only CCIE. Number is in there. I have the RNS and security CCIE tracks passed. Currently, I'm studying for SP and design. So for the CCIE SP track and the design track, the CCNA level. I've been doing INE for I think 5 to 6 years now. But I've been mainly doing back in the days a lot of back development, workbook development mainly, and previously from like 2 years ago and until now, I'm doing not only development but also online and on-site classes, mainly for security and routing and switching, from the CCNA to the CCIE level. You can get in contact with me at any of those locations, to call it that way, either on my email address. Of course, preferable is going to be the email address whenever you want to ask me something. Technically, of course, it is the cmatei@ine.com. Otherwise, we can meet on social media. You have there my Twitter account and also my LinkedIn account. Course format, it is a mix of technology discussion and hands-on an example, so it's both of them. And from the technology discussion point of view, I'm going to be using slides. We here at INE don't in generally use slides, so we tend to go away from the what is called the slide of death, or whatever the naming of that is. Basically, from the boring classes which have a lot of slides. But because this is a technology course which is aimed to prepare for the certification, you're going to have also some slides attached to the class with the theory, just to have it as a back reference before you go to your exam, or just to use it at any point in time later. So because this is a technology course aimed to prepare for the certification, we're going to have also some slides in there. And likewise, we're going to do constantly whiteboarding. So as we pick up a specific technology or topic, I'm going to constantly pop up on the whiteboard and draw and explain how things work, why they work in a specific way. And of course, I may also ask questions. So we're going to have a dialogue back and forth. We may also reference some online documents in specific cases. For example, maybe for ASD, I'm going to show you some problems in there. Or for other topics, as the case comes. Usually also some people that join the class they're asking for a specific reference for a specific topic, and then of course I'm going to show you where that is. But hands-on examples, so I'm going to be doing pretty much what we're discussing about, of course what's possible, because not everything is possible on the devices. Like we're going to speak about, I don't know, types of attacks, or we're going to speak about general VPN theory. There's going to be no live example, but as we go to IPsec and VPN examples, VPN implementation types, then we're going to do also examples based on the discussed designs. So we're going to be doing a lot of live examples from real equipment, and because the class is not pre-tested, so what I'm trying to say is that whatever we're going to do today, tomorrow, and the whole week in class has not been like pre-tested, pre-configured, pre-done previously. It means, as I was saying, that troubleshooting may be required, because as I was saying, I'm going to leave some commands on purpose, or accidentally I'm going to miss some of those, or maybe because we're going to use the same rack throughout the week and add a lot of technologies in there, which means we're going to see problems happening from time to time. And again, you're going to see me how would I investigate that, and why is that, to also see a live troubleshooting example. And also likewise, I may ask questions when a problem shows up, something like, what would you do at this point? Because basically in the troubleshooting process, it is a couple of things which are very important. The most important thing is knowing the technology inside out, and secondly, just a bit of strategy. But otherwise, it all goes down to the technology. Now, course prerequisites. So from the technical point of view, in order to get the most of this class, ideally you're going to have a basic knowledge of networking technologies. So likewise, ideally you're going to be CCNA routing and switching certified, or you would have equivalent knowledge. So you should have known, you should know what is OC, what is TCP/IP, how does it work, what is Ethernet, what are the switch, or router, or server, and of course, likewise, how does this work? What are their, let's say, main scopes? Likewise, working knowledge of the Cisco iOS operating system. Of course, not, let's say, technical knowledge from the technology point of view, but just how the iOS runs, the, let's say, CLI, the format of commands, and things like that. Likewise, working knowledge of Windows operating system. We're going to touch base with a couple of Windows systems as well throughout the class. And, okay, let's go next. Course intended audience is going to be clearly CCNA security certification candidates, obviously. Then everyday entry-level engineers who want to get their feet wet in the world of security, apply knowledge in real-world implementations afterwards, because you're gonna not only we're gonna not only do theory, but also, as I was saying, live examples. So you're gonna see both of them at the same time. Class is focused on learning and understanding the technologies. So for CCNA security candidates, pass the exam as a byproduct of understanding the technologies. So basically, your goal, not only for this class but in general, should be to learn how things work, why do they work in a certain way, and then understand how to apply them on the whatever the device is. Because, for example, one of the reasons that the CCIA track is pretty much wanted certification is not only because it's CISCO, but because whoever goes on that journey towards the CCIA track, they learn, first of all, how technologies work. And then, of course, they learn the CISCO implementation of putting those technologies on their devices. But at the same time, basically, once you know, for example, how OSPF runs, BGP, EIGRP, ISIS, whatever the protocol is, then most of the same concepts remain across vendors. It's only that each vendor may choose to, let's say, deviate a bit from the RFC, as also CISCO does it, or may choose to implement specific features a bit differently than CISCO does it. But at the core of things, they all work in the same thing, because underlying it is the same technology, which is like a routing protocol. That was the case, which is a RFC. So which means that whatever vendor is going to implement that technology, because it's an RFC, it has to comply with requirements, because otherwise, if that would not be the case, you're not going to be able to put in the network, like in the internet, multiple vendor, let's say, devices. So yeah, the Juniper router has to speak with the Cisco router, OSPF and BGP and ISIS and RIP. So they have to comply with a specific set of standards, which is going to be outlined within the RFC's protocol of which we're speaking. So what is the scope of the class? It's aimed, of course, towards the certification and knowledge, but also to provide a structured learning methodology. So basically, you should, in general, as you do, whatever you learn, doesn't matter if it's whatever the track is, you should move away from the command memorization concept. Being in the field, not only in the training field, but also in the, let's say, engineering field, because I was constantly doing back and forward both, let's say, consultancy and trainings. So I got a chance to see both worlds, and I've seen constantly people struggling with memorizing commands, or basically, so it's a couple of, in most cases, what most of us do, unfortunately, is either we memorize the commands because we have done that technology so many times that it just sticks with us, or either we struggle to memorize the commands to believe we learned the technology. A lot of people also, what they do, they constantly go back to their notes, like each month or each couple of months, they go back to their notes and they read all of their notes again to refresh the brain. which is not a good approach, because in most cases, if you have a good learning methodology, that's you don't need that kind of approach. So that's the wrong approach. So that's why you get frustrated that you read a book, you read two books, you think you know it, then like 1 week later or 1 month later, it's pretty much all gone, because it has to do with how you process the information, and how you do make yourself aware of not the content as it is, but by understanding what does it mean and how does it work. So as I was saying, to gain knowledge, there is no shortcut. So if you want to be a regular, if you want to be an engineer and stick out at CCNA or CCNP level, then you can go ahead and try and memorize commands and move on. It is going to work up to a point. But if you want to become an expert, then there is no shortcut. You got to do it the long way, which the long way is to understand how things work. Short way is basically just memorization, reading, memorization, and things like that. So from this class point of view, at the CCNA level, we have to understand we're gonna be facing a lot of concepts, a lot of, let's say, technical aspects. But because it's CCNA level, we're gonna just see the basics and the, let's say, the bare bone, the core of each technology, but not the advanced topics, not even the medium topics. So the CCNA class is aimed towards giving you a brief overview of a lot of technologies, a lot of what's going on in the security world. Of course, not all of it. It's far more or more than that. But to what is, let's say, most commonly used, both nowadays and in the old days, and give you introduce you the concepts and what is the scope of specific, let's say, platforms or specific solutions, but not going into the details and into the, not even the medium, as I was saying, not even to the medium technical aspects. But this doesn't matter. This doesn't mean that you cannot ask questions which can be, even advanced, and expect answers from my side. And of course, it is helped and aimed to pass you the exam for getting certified. And one of the things that most people are looking, and I was there as well a couple of years ago, like 6-7 years ago, that everybody's looking for that one resource that they're gonna pay on it whatever the amount of money, and then basically expect to take that resource. If it's a video, just watch it a couple of times, or if it's a book, just read it once or twice, and then go to the exam and pass the exam. And this doesn't work for a couple of reasons. So just to start from let's say a common fundament, basically, if somebody tries to sell you a product for whatever the certification is, for CCNA, for CCNP, and they tell you, hey, come to us, this is your product and this is going to make you 100% pass the exam, that's not good. That's basically a big lie. There is no such thing. Remember that in the end, it doesn't matter how much knowledge is there available to you. You may even go and buy all resources. It matters how you process those, how you understand those, how you put those in practice, and how you behave in the exam day. So it's you that basically is responsible to be able to adapt the knowledge to your own, let's say, understanding, and then also build the knowledge by implementing it, and then go also in the exam and pass it gracefully. So also we're going to speak about other resources which may help you towards achieving not only passing the certification, but also getting experienced with the technologies. So what is INS? Stands for Implementing Cisco Network Security, even though it's double I, because it is called, back in the days, it used to be implementing iOS network security. That's why it was called IINS. Now it is called Implementing Cisco Network Security, and there you go, IINS no longer stands for the true, but it doesn't matter. The reason that Cisco changed the names is because also in the current CCNA security, they added the ASA firewall as a bigger, let's say, portion of the certification content, with also implementation technologies on the SA. So because the SA doesn't run the iOS code, then there we go, the certification is no longer called Implementing iOS Network Security, but Implementing Cisco Network Security. Okay. So Cisco's description about the certification is that it validates associate level knowledge and skills required to secure Cisco networks. That sounds fancy. With a CCNA security certification, a network professional demonstrates the skills required to develop security infrastructure, recognize threats and vulnerabilities to networks, and mitigate security threats. Then basically it's a focus on core security technologies, and also to the aim, and also aims towards helping you to understand how you can protect your data through integrity, confidentiality, and availability using, of course, Cisco devices in there. This sounds very good, but as you're gonna see, whatever resource you read, it's just basically a lot of introductory technologies, and then on a couple of those, we go into details, and we also see live implementations and live examples. Because otherwise, the security field is just huge. There are so many technologies, so many problems, so many issues, and there we go, so many technologies, and so many things to learn, things to study. It never stops. It's probably the most live track among all Cisco's tracks, like among data center, security, voice, and so on. So because basically even Cisco cannot catch up, cannot refresh the, let's say, the materials and the certification version as often as the requirements in the world are changing, and also as often as Cisco is changing their products, their product line, to be able to defend their customers' networks. Course description: it is based on the current INS version 3.0 blueprint. The exam number, it is 210 to 60, and we're gonna look at the details of the certification at the website as shows on the slides, cisco.com/go/CCNA security. The course outline throughout the week is gonna be divided into a couple of sections, which are basically outlined per Cisco's blueprint. Gonna divide a course into what is called network security concepts, and then into securing network devices, firewalls, VPNs, and then a couple of advanced topics, which we're gonna mainly just discuss about it. There's gonna be no live examples, because that's the scope in there is only to introduce you to other, let's say, technologies, and what is the scope of those technologies to begin with. Within the first section, which is the network security concepts, we're going to speak about what's called the threats landscape. So we're going to see, we're going to do also a history of how the attacks in the internet evolved, and also what are some common types of attacks. But as we're going to see, because whatever goes on today, which is what is called advanced persistent threats, we're going to speak pretty much not at all about those, or only briefly in the following days, because that topic, the APT topic, it's a complex advanced topic, which probably doesn't make sense to explain it at the CCNA level, because it's anyways a lot of content to digest and to follow up within the 5 days Cisco official course, to call it that way. So we're going to speak mainly about, let's say, all type of attacks, and also some of them which are still relevant. But like whatever it's a hot topic from like 2015 and on moving, which is APT, we're gonna just briefly tell what that is and how does it work, because to be able to understand those concepts and be able to defend the network against those types of attacks, you need a broader and deeper knowledge for a lot of other technologies, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. We're going to speak about, of course, after the threat landscapes, about what are the solutions. So what does Cisco offer as a product, or as a solution, or as an architecture, in order to be able to defend against whatever we're going to be discussing in the threats landscape section. Then we're going to speak about what is a security policy and some security architectures. And finally, about the cryptology overview, which is going to be an introduction in the cryptology world. So that's going to be mainly theory, slides, drawings, so no CLI. It's basically introduction to the security world, because Cisco basically assumes that whoever goes on this direction may have no knowledge at all about whatever it's a security world. So they give you an input of the current threats landscape, and how can you protect and how can you defend against those. And from the cryptology point of view, it's going to be just introduction, because otherwise cryptology is a huge domain by itself, which not as Cisco doesn't cover it in details. They cover how they implement the cryptology via IPsec VPNs or MACsec or SSL VPNs in their products, but from the cryptology point of view, they don't get into the details because it's a huge topic by itself, the theory, the mathematics, and the algorithms behind it. But as you're going to go also to the IPsec VPN section, or even when we discuss about the cryptology basics, of course, you can ask as many questions as you want, and you're going to get an answer on those. Then we're going to go to securing network devices, which is going to be mainly speaking about what is AAA. And they're going to speak about securing the management plane, the control plane, and security at layer 2. So in that section, we're going to speak about like each device. If you pick up a network device, whatever that is, a router, a switch, a firewall, an IPS, it doesn't matter what it is. Each of those devices are splitted into like 3 different identities. So one is going to be what is called the management plane, which is going to be responsible for remotely managing the device, like when you SSH to the box, or you telnet to the box, or you HTTPS to the box in order to manage it, to change its configuration, upgrade it, and things like that. Then it is the control plane, which control plane is going to be protocols like ARP, like routing protocols, for example, like switching, like layer 2 protocols like STP. So STP, routing, ARP is going to be those protocols who make the network learn and allow the network to forward packets from source A to destination B. So for a packet to go from A to B, it needs to know, so the devices involved between A to B need to know how to route the packet towards the destination. So if they can reach the destination, and then what is the technology they have to send the packet over? Like, is that going to be a radio technology, PPP, Ethernet, VPN, whatever the type of technology is, they need to be able to send those packets over in there. So what allows the packet to go from A to B is the control plane. So the routers are going to run control plane protocols to make sure the network is loop free, like span protocol, to make sure that the routers know how to route packets, which is from the routing protocol point of view, to make sure that routers know how to forward packets, like for example, it's going to be ARP. So what is the next up? And there's going to be the data plane, which is the actual forwarding engine of a device. So like when a switch's control plane or a router's control plane has converged, which means it has all of the required data to be able to forward packets back and forward, then when a device receives the packet for forwarding, and it's going to take the packet inbound on its port FAST01, send it out on port FA02, that is called the forwarding plane. So it's the action when a device takes a packet, it receives the packet, and then routes the packet or switch the packet towards its destination. And within the lines, we're going to speak also about some security, some layer 2 topics, like from the STP point of view or our point of view. Then we're going to go to the firewall section. We're going to go through a overview of what is the firewall, so what are the available types of firewalls, a bit of history as well. So what was the firewall evolution from back in the days until today, and what are we dealing with today, and why is that, and of course how do they operate differently than the first initial versions of firewalls. And then I'm going to present Cisco's solution from the firewall point of view, not all of them. I'm going to speak only about the ASA firewall and the iOS zone-based policy firewall. But on the ASA firewall, we're not going to discuss about the firepower module in there. Only we're going to touch base with it just briefly, but we're not going to be able to show configuration live examples because it's not in the scope of the CCNA blueprint. So we're not going to speak about source file or firepower within this class, but also we're going to speak about the router's version of implementing a firewall, which is Cisco's iOS zone-based policy firewall. And of course in there, as expected for the CCNA level, we're going to do basic examples, basic configurations, aim being so that you're going to be able to understand what a firewall is and how Cisco implements the firewall technology, the basic firewall technology within the ASA firewall, and likewise within the iOS routers. Then we're going to speak about VPNs. We're going to speak about also what a VPN is, which a VPN, it's not basically, it has nothing to do with, a VPN doesn't imply IPsec. So VPN is just a virtual private network, and on top of that, optionally we can run IPsec in order to protect the data in transit. We're going to speak about what VPNs are, and then what is IPsec, what does IPsec add for VPNs, and then also about site-to-site IPsec VPNs and remote access SSL VPNs. Now VPNs are huge. We're going to do a basic discussion in there. It's a huge amount of let's say knowledge which is required to understand VPNs inside out. So it's so many technologies, so many protocols, so many ways of deploying a VPN. Why is that? For a lot of reasons. Because first of all, when VPNs came back, I don't know, 20 years ago or something, when the RFC of ISACAMP was released, then at that point the internet needed a certain type of security of data in transit. And then because networking has changed, we deploy new technologies. We need a new, let's say, new features on the devices. Then we came up with additions to the IPsec, let's say, framework, which complicated things a lot. And also from the configuration point of view, it's so many options, so many variations in there that is basically, it's impossible to touch base with it completely except at the CCIA level. Okay, so we're going to speak about, as I was saying, IPsec and SSL VPNs. Then in the advanced topic section, so in the firewall and VPN section, we're going to do also examples. That's going to be the more interesting part. Likewise in the AAA section. But in the advanced topic, you're going to mainly discuss about the IPS system, the IDS system, so the history IDS, and then the IPS from nowadays, and then the next generation IPS. We're going to discuss about the endpoint level security. Why do you need security at the endpoint level, and how does Cisco help in that matter? And also about email and web security. Why is that important? And then what are Cisco products, and a bit of how do they work, just high level, to have an understanding if you want to compare with other vendors. Like this is how Cisco implements their email security appliance or their web security appliance as compared to other vendors. But of course, from the implementation point of view, it's a lot more in there, which we're not going to be able to touch base with this in this week.